Welcome back to Inherently Optimistic. We are coming at you heavily edited from deep in the rainforests of the great American Pacific Northwest. And this is the show where me and my friends try to get to the bottom of things. I'm Jacob.
I'm Emma.
And today, we're getting to the bottom of a very, very, very important
Yeah, I just want to say, on all the other episodes that I've been in, like, there's been somebody else to prevent us from getting to the bottom of things. But today, it's just you and me.
True.
We are the smart ones of the group.
Yeah, and this is where, like, our authority is really going to shine in this one, I think.
We're not only going to see that bottom, but we're going to take it and we're going to discover it real good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
If you've been following the podcast recently, you will have heard the episode, The Legend. If you're a Patreon member, you will already know this. But if you're not a Patreon member, if you're not a little pay piggy who says oink oink and puts your debit card information into Patreon to give me money, I recently discovered a Facebook group called Cute Goblin, Orc, and Ogre Women, and it really took me down to the whole rabbit hole of goblin porno culture.
For those of you who look it up, it has shrunk. There were Facebook pages going down. There were Discord pages going down.
Yeah, it got gentrified. They card you to get into the Discord now, so that you have to give them your ID to see goblin pussy.
Yeah, it's tanked.
It's
but
been
those
gentrified.
First 3 days were bliss.
Okay, now while I was traveling through the goblin porno dimension, I happened upon something beautiful.
It's so beautiful, dude. I'm about to cry.
There is an artist, and a lot of people listening to this will know who this artist is because he's pretty big on the internet. He has like a couple 100,000 followers on Twitter, and he's making $14,000 a month on Patreon. So a lot of people probably know who he is. A man by the name of Encase. Now, in 2010, Encase started a webcomic that is still to this day getting weekly uploads, and
I think it's every other week now.
Something like that, but I did the math. So it's been going for like 10 or 12 years, and I did the math, and he's put out a page on average about once every week or two for that entire time.
Yeah, he hasn't slowed down or whatever, yeah.
So I come across a 1,100 and I think now 34 page.
Comic?
Right?
Web comic?
Yeah, I would call it
picture book.
I was going to call it a goblin porno, but I know that technically that's incorrect. But the spirit.
We'll get into why that's incorrect later.
Now let me.
Yeah, I have so many things to say. My brain is churning.
Now this comic is very famous, and it's called Alfie. But here's the deal, though. It's not just your run-of-the-mill smut. Let me read a description from our friend here. This is how Encase describes the comic. Alfie is a webcomic that attempts mixing plot and porn. It's a story about a remote halfling village coming into contact with humans for the first time. The plot jumps between Alfie and Vera, halfling mother and daughter, as they get to know a couple of humans and elves who help expand their horizons. So
I think that's a beautiful description. I do. I really do. I just want to start off by saying what Jacob said earlier about this being kind of a porno, but not. It starts off very much porn. Like, it's all porn, pretty much, right? As you get deeper, the plot gets so good. I'm hooked. I read it in 3 days. Okay?
So here's the deal. This is not like a new idea. A lot of people have tried to synthesize the porno world and the art world to make it like, oh, what if like you got to see an asshole, but like the writing was good. This is not a new idea. People have been trying and failing to do this forever. So here's the question that we're here to answer today is, does this work? Is this like working? Is this like fucked up? Did he pull it off? Is Alfie deserving of its reputation of being the Citizen Kane of goblin porno? We are going. This might be the second time in podcast history that we actually get to the bottom.
No, we're going to. Listen. I have this basically memorized. The plot. I know what I wanted to say about everything.
Okay.
There's some really cool biases. There's some really cool. You can see the artist's art develop over the course. I mean, it starts out black and white, and it gets so detailed. I'm so excited. Okay, where are we starting off?
Okay, so first of all, first I'm gonna review the easy part. Okay, and by the way, goes without saying, if you care about spoilers for a 10-year-old porno comic, it only takes you a few hours to get through, so I don't know, just like do the whole thing. You do not jack off, though. You cannot jack off before, during, or within a 30-minute period after listening to my show.
Oh, I thought you were going to say after reading the comic, and I was going to say one of us already failed that.
So don't do that. But if you care about spoilers, or you just want to be in on the bits, or understand all the funny little jokes, because we might not provide full context for everything because we're stupid morons.
Okay.
Just go read it. I'm going to get the easy part of the review out of the way first. In Case's art is actually fucking cracked. Like, it starts really good and only gets better. Like, this guy goes the fuck off.
Yeah, because, I mean, it even starts with just black and white. There's not even color. But you see the incredible amount of detail as it carries on.
It is fucking crazy.
Especially scenes where it's showing a place. Like, not like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's
also,
crazy.
He gets details down on other things as well.
Yeah, I mean, the pussies and the buttholes are very detailed, but it looks like the non-porno pages are like crazy.
They're incredible. They are.
It's just like if you've ever read Kill 6 Billion Demons, it's not that good, but it's as close as a porn comic could possibly hope to being like that good of an art style.
It's so good.
By the way, have you seen Kill 6 Billion Demons?
I have not.
You should read that next.
Does it also have porn?
It's not like a porno comic. It's just like like the
you
greatest.
Find me one like Alfie. I'll read it.
Okay, so you're hooked on titties now.
I've always been hooked on titties.
Okay.
I just never thought I'd be going old style paperback titties.
So here's the deal. Here's what we're going to do next. Now we're going to go through the story. And I have taken notes on most of the chapters here because I do this thing with so I'm not really interested in porn comics for porn reasons. I'm way past the point of being able to jack off to a still image. My brain is too destroyed for that at this point.
So that's why I'm here.
but sometimes I get transfixed by porn comics the same way that people get transfixed by like crime scene photos. Do you know what I mean? Where you just you're like, why do I keep looking at this?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's fun to see okay, who's fucking now? Where are they going with this? Like, is this guy really going to draw this next thing that I think he's going to draw? Yeah. It gets it's almost.
Although I'm pretty sure the second page, the first or second page, there's already it's out there.
Yeah, I don't want to say.
There's not really the suspense.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the deal.
Chapter 1.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the best chapters. Wait, maybe not.
What do you mean? I don't know what you mean when you say best chapter. Okay, so let's start to lay out the plot. Okay, so we open in a halfling village, and the reason I say that people get mad when I call this goblin porn is because technically most of the main characters who are doing a lot of the fucking are halflings, but In Case draws them.
No, there are so many different races of porn in this. I mean, there's a bunch.
There's a lot of dicks involved.
You're never gonna get. There's always new ones coming in. Okay, coming on.
You're not gonna get bored.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. We start off in this village, right? And so the main character Alfie lives in a very conservative village
of all halflings.
Yeah, where people are not chill. Okay, and this human caravan comes through. It's like trading or whatever. And this is the first time they've let a human caravan in. And the humans start laying pipe immediately.
Oh, immediately. I believe the first couple pages is it starts off showing Alfie looking hiding in the bushes, kind of looking out.
That's one of the really awkward things about the story as it goes is so they have to he has to do two things, or he has to contrive reasons for characters to be around during the fucking, and then he also has to contrive reasons for them to come into conflict with each other around that. So there's a running theme where people are just constantly watching each other fuck, and it is it's
but
so weird
I have a theory
sometimes.
on that, so we're gonna get to that. Okay, we're gonna get to that. Trust me.
All right.
I've thought about everything.
Okay, so the humans are in the village and they start laying pipe immediately.
Alfie catches her friend Melly. I haven't read that in a while. Melly. just getting absolutely railed by he's kind of portrayed as like an asshole-ish guy, like he's just kind of a dick.
Yeah.
And like
when later in the episode when we do our character power rankings, I'll definitely have some words about this man.
Yeah, so he's just kind of an ass. Anyway, he is just like going ham on her friend Melly, and she's watching like, holy shit, like Melly's married, like this is crazy, like what's going on? And she watches the whole thing, you know, like she keeps watching,
right? Because it wouldn't be normal to like walk away, or be like, "Oops, ha."
Yeah, and she watches the whole thing, and then
for
a boy, a little baby human boy, shows up and is like, "Hey, what you doing?" And that's the start.
Yeah,
that's how it opens. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm gonna skip a lot of like minor shit. So
that's fine.
We're talking about the plot is going to move pretty quick because, like I said, it's like over 1,000 pages, but like you can hammer through it pretty fast.
Yeah.
And the arcs are like pretty clear.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay, so as chapters like I think it's like 1 through 4 or 5 is all her in the village.
Yeah, I think it is because I think it's her and her mom. It flips between them.
Right. Okay.
And I have the mom's backstory down flat. So when we get to that, I know it really well.
So the rest of the story from that part forward is Alfie developing a relationship with this guy.
Yes. Having fantasies about sex with humans.
Yeah.
You think she's innocent, but she's not. Yeah. That bitch is crazy.
Yeah. Okay. And she gets together with this human Marco, and they start relentlessly fucking all the time.
Yeah.
So... And as the story progresses, we learn that her mom, Alfie's mom, was like this wild child that wanted to leave the village, and then she got pregnant on accident and like got tied down. But we also find out that her husband like really wanted a family and wanted to raise kids and stuff, but he has been gay this whole time.
So listen, you're missing some major parts.
Okay.
First, because this ties in with Alfie. Her mom wanted to leave the village. Mm-hmm. Did leave. She left for 2 months and then came back pregnant and settled down. So the town hates her. The town thinks she's a slut. Yeah. They don't like her. They think that she's just like this raging bitch. She is. She is a raging bitch. But her husband is gay. And so she and her husband obviously don't get along. She's just a mean bitch. One thing I think is really funny.
It's revealed later that her husband was like trying to ameliorate the situation. And she was like, no, I don't care. But okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, yes, all that stuff happens. And so because Alfie's mom, whose name is Vera, who's a main character, is mad about her gay husband and catching him fucking his friend. Which, by the way, weird that they didn't get a sex scene.
Yeah, I did think about that.
Because this okay, here's my porno rating real fast. If you're like straight, you're gonna be okay with this one, I think. If you're a lesbian, you're gonna be okay. If you are bisexual, you're gonna want to stay hydrated reading this.
That is so true. I drank so much water. There was a lot of exchange of fluids,
but not a whole lot for the gays out there.
No, there really isn't too many gay sex scenes.
I think that might be because I think In Case is bisexual though, based on like some stuff I read on his Patreon. That might not be true. I think that's true. That seems to be the vibe he's putting out. So anyway, because Vera has caught her husband having gay sex with his friend,
she's just mad.
Like she's really pissed off and is like hating gay people. As,
And it's not just her. The entire town is like homophobic. Yeah. They also don't like interracial sex. So like having sex with humans, having sex with anything else is like frowned upon, and they'll like throw tomatoes at you. Like it's crazy how
they put a guy in the stocks for clapping fat ass. Which I love that they put a part in there where like, because like the joke. The obvious low-hanging fruit here is like, dude, if you're like a human, bro, and you get with like the halfling women, dude, your dick is like huge, bro. Like they all
and it's like a man fucking a woman.
Yeah. They all like the joke there is obvious, but they do one scene where a halfling guy gets caught fucking a human woman, which rules.
Yeah, that's
super
so
hard.
Cool.
And then he gets like put in the stocks and and made fun of for the rest of the day.
So while Alfie is out there slinging cock with this boy.
Catching cock.
Yeah, whatever. Either way. while she's out there with this guy, her mom gets contracted, because she's a leather worker, gets contracted by an elf who we later find out is like part of the caravan. He's like also, the leader of the caravan.
Also, hang on. We're kind of going all over the place, but remember that thing that I said earlier about her mom being super homophobic because of the husband thing? That's going to be really important on the next plot point.
Yeah. So she gets contracted by this elven male.
Yeah, he's a king.
He's a king, and she can't tell at first. It's very important. She can't tell at first if it's a woman or a man. Like it's just
because elves are very effeminate.
Yes. Well, he asks her for like total and utter privacy on this piece he wants her to make. Right. So she agrees, and it ends up being like handcuffs.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, like that's okay, whatever." Well, she ends up making. First, that's not important. I'm too caught up in the little details. So she makes the hand. I do. This is so good. It's so. You guys have to read it. There's so. Listen, we're only like 15 minutes into this, and we've already missed enough that I could have talked about for an hour.
I like how my original idea for this was like we should read this and then talk about it because it would be really funny, and there's going to be a lot of funny jokes to make and a lot of funny shit to talk about. And Emma's just like unironically like, I love this so much.
Yeah. It's so good. Anyway, so she makes the handcuffs and she takes them to the elf in his caravan. Do we want to go through, like, follow this plot line and then go into the next one, or do we want to talk about Alfie?
We need to lay out this relationship for a minute because it's going to be important for something I talk about later. So it turns out that the cuffs are actually for the elf, and he's like a hardcore BDSM bratty sub.
He has Vera like put the cuffs on him to make sure they fit, and like swings around with his big old boner in her face.
Yeah, and then he convinces her to jack him off via a convoluted scheme of offering more payment or whatever.
Yeah.
And then this starts the long-running hardcore BDSM relationship between the Elven King and Vera, where the Elven King is a bratty sub and Vera
and that's how he got her, was talking about how like she likes to like he likes being called names and like what is that called? There's a word for that.
Like a humiliation king?
Yes, he has a humiliation king. Yeah. And she is just like a hardcore piece of shit woman who just likes to be mean, and so it kind of works out for the both of them.
One of my favorite lines is when she's like trying to humiliate him to like get him off, and she says all elves look like women to me, but this is ridiculous. Very funny. Yeah, there's a couple of banger lines in this.
Yeah, there are. I have my favorite ones saved. Don't worry.
So this all happens,
but right? One more important thing. At first, she kind of is just like, whatever, I'll do this because whatever. But then she realizes she's kind of into it. Yeah. And like, then she starts like having him reciprocate, and they actually start fucking, and it's really cool. Like, I really like the character growth. The character growth is so good.
Oh my god, this is going to be me trying to fucking like unpack Emma's rotten brain. You're telling me, okay, I guess the character arc is good.
She starts out not even like wanting anything to do with it because she's so scared of her gay husband. She's like, oh my god, BDSM, it's the same thing, it's gross, whatever. She won't like use the guy's dildo to like fuck him in the ass, like she refuses to because it's wrong. Right. By the end, dude, she's holding him down while he's getting fucked by another man. Okay, so like character growth. Okay.
Okay. So this whole like BDSM relationship happens, and then cut to we're almost to the end of the village chapters already, and they're having this big festival that they do every year.
First, this is important. Okay. This is very important. Okay. So the whole thing with Alfie always getting caught watching people having sex, we learn later that she's sitting around a campfire with Marco, and then her friend. She has her friend and the other guy who's there, and they fuck in front of her, and then she's like, "Damn, I really like this." So that's important.
Well, there's also that line. There's also that line where when she's on her way to meet Marco for the first time, where Melly like calls her out on like watching people fuck all the time. Yeah, like being a fucking peeper, which is weird, but sure. Anyway, so
I'm a peeper. You think I don't look under the door when you and Amy are in there? You fucking idiot.
I don't know how you would see anything looking under the door.
I got a straw.
You've got one of those like black ops like fucking spy cam, like a colonoscopy scope that you put underneath the door. all right, so now we're at this big festival that they do every year, and it's a big like marriage festival where men are supposed to propose to women, and all the single women are like dressed with like fucking
flowers,
with like fucking what is that movie? Midsummer dresses.
Oh yeah. They're all wearing dresses, and they have like flowers and whatever.
All of the single women look like midsummer women. So during this. Previous to this festival, Alfie and her mom have gotten in like this huge fight because Vera is a huge bitch.
It's true. I think
especially
the fight,
during the beginning of the book.
What was the fight about? It had to do with her. She was her mom was worried about her getting pregnant or something like that. Yeah, she was like, "You need to be careful, like out doing whatever you're doing. Yeah. Like you need to. You don't want to end up like me. Blah blah blah."
Yeah, they get in some big fight.
And she was like, "What? You didn't want to have me? Blah blah blah." It was crazy. Anyway,
so. The festival starts, and Vera is like, "Hey, Alfie, I really need to talk to you about the fight that we've gotten recently. Like, find me later, okay?" And then towards the end of the festival, Alfie is like drinking by herself, and then her best friend Melly finds her drinking by herself, and they have a conversation, and they're like, "Let's get the fuck out of here. This festival is is done."
Melly's like, "Hey, I know a place I used to go skinny dipping in with a bunch of friends. Like, nobody goes out there anymore. Let's go. Let's just go chill."
And at this point in the story, Alfie has been having a lot of bisexual thoughts, so we already know where this is going.
She was banging Marco after she watched Melly fuck her friend by the fire.
Right.
And as she was banging Marco, she was like thinking about grabbing titties. Like,
yeah, which who among us has not thought about grabbing titties?
Dude, I'm always thinking about grabbing titties, to be honest.
Okay, so Melly and Alfie go out, and they're talking about how their night has been bullshit or whatever, and they get hammered, and they're skinny dipping, and they
get to like this secluded spring.
Yeah. They're skinny dipping, hammered, and they just start eating pussy off.
Well, first, Melly catches Alfie just staring at that coochie.
At that fucking hairy halfling snatch.
Dude, I love that they're hairy. Listen, it's so inclusive. It's so inclusive. Because most human people nowadays shave their pussies. It's so lame, but like, they do.
I feel like I haven't seen a girl where it's like shaved bare in like a while, like a long time.
Dude. I like the bush, okay? Yeah. Like, I don't even...
Do you like a maintained bush, or do you like
dude,
a wild
I literally
bush?
do not care. Like, it keeps my upper lip warm.
Okay.
Like...
That's vile to think about. So anyway, so this happens, right? And Vera is looking for Alfie to be like, "Hey, where did she go?"
Yeah. And then this guy is like, "Hey, I used to go to this spot with a bunch of buddies. Maybe she's out there."
Yeah, in this is one of the parts where, like, I'll criticize like the writing and some of the plot points a little bit later on when we get into talking about like the actual writing and not just laying out the plot. But this is one of the times where like this is like super fucking contrived writing where it's like,
why would that guy have been like, "Hey, maybe she's out in the middle of the woods"?
He sets it up a little bit because Melly's like, "Hey, I know this spot that only like old people know about, and they don't come out here anymore." Or so like they kind of set it up a little bit, but it's nighttime and they don't have like a fire started or anything, so there's like literally no reason. Yeah, like it's completely contrived.
And also, why would one of the guys have been like, "Hey, I think your daughter might be here in this random spot that nobody goes to anymore"?
Yeah, well, and there's a kid that was like, "Oh, I saw them walking off towards the blah blah blah," and then another guy's like, "Why would they go over there? There's nothing over there."
Yeah, I can tell what you're talking about.
It's lame.
It's kind of like
So this culminates with Vera catching Alfie and Melly. Mid bush eating. Yeah. And so because Vera at this point in the story is like super homophobic and pissed off because her husband cheated on her.
Just before this, she got in an argument. I forgot about this. Before this whole thing happened, she got in an argument with her husband because she told him she was cheating on him with an elf, and he was like, "Oh my god, I'm so happy for you. I wish you would have found someone for you sooner." And she was pissed that he wasn't pissed.
Yeah. So she goes on a fucking rampage and freaks the fuck out about Alfie hooking up with a girl. And this is where we start like the next big arc of the story, because after this fight, Alfie decides to leave the village.
Bails.
So she goes with Marco onto the caravan because the caravan is leaving at this point to go to the next destination, and she leaves. And then
we forgot. The elf also invited Vera to travel with him in the caravan.
Yeah, and she denied
and she declined it.
Yeah.
Because she couldn't leave Alfie.
Right.
Jokes on that bitch.
So Alfie leaves, and Vera finds out and flips the fuck out. and leaves the village
to go
after her and find her because she feels guilty. So after there's a lot of like pages after this whole thing where she like feels really guilty and it's like, what the fuck am I even doing? Like, what am I talking about? Why am I being such a fucking asshole? Like, none of the shit matters. But it's too late and her daughter is gone. So she's like, I have to go. And she like is saying that she has to go to like bring her back. But like the reader, if you're not an idiot, knows like, oh, she has to go find her to like reconcile this. Like that can't be the last.
Well, yeah, because the husband tries to be like, no, like she wanted to go, like let her leave. You wanted to leave. She's doing what you wanted to, blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, no, you're a piece of shit. Like you should want to find our daughter.
Yeah.
Even though I 100% agree with the husband.
So now...
I think before we move into the next chapter, we've got to do our original, like, character, like, evaluations.
What do you mean?
To our top characters right now.
Oh, like right now?
Yeah, first chapter.
You know what? That'll be a way to do it. Like, every time we get through a big section...
We go through the characters.
We'll do, like, a review.
Yeah,
hang on, no. We should wait until the end because then we can analyze like their entire arc. And it's not going to take us very much longer to go from here forward.
Okay, well, let's get through the chapter 1 characters who aren't going to be in the rest of it.
Okay, so we'll talk about the characters that were in this part of the story that don't come back, that haven't come back yet. And I think there's only 2 that aren't reoccurring.
The husband?
I guess the husband, and then Melly. And then the other guard, not Marco, the other guy. I have his name written down.
Oh, the one that Melly was fucking. Yeah, I know he's traveling with the caravan, but you don't really see Gene a lot.
Do you see him in the background sometimes?
Yeah, but he's not part of the main story.
Yeah, which was weird. I mean, I guess they don't really
I'm glad, because that guy's a fucking douche. Let's start with him.
Yeah, okay, yeah, he's kind of an asshole, but you also kind of read it as, like, it kind of being a little bit of a bit. Because Melly is, like, also being an asshole to him.
Yeah, from what I got...
like, a little bit of, like,
yeah, they're kind of teasing each other, yes. But also, you can tell that he's kind of just a prick.
Yeah.
Like, the way he talks about himself. Because Melly will make the jokes about him, but he's not making the jokes about Melly.
Yeah.
He's making them about himself. Talking about his big cock and, like, all this. Right. And it's, like, that's kind of cringe.
Yeah.
And the scene where they do anal, and he's kind of like, why are you stalling? Just, like, fucking take. I knew you were going to like this, you piece of shit. Like,
which, by the way, I was surprised. That is the only male on female anal scene in the entire story so far. It's the only one. Which I thought was surprising.
You're right.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Didn't Marco not do it with that? No, Marco and Alfie didn't.
No, but it was never shown. So anyway,
yeah, that's crazy. I didn't think about that. Which I think we should have more of that because, come on, be real.
Emma, you're a fucking animal, dude. Why did I sign up for this? Okay, so here's the deal.
He's okay.
Melly, I think, is probably going to end up back in the story at some point.
I think she has to.
Yeah, it feels weird. It feels weird that we've been. Because that was like her best friend in the village.
And her first female lover.
Yeah, so it's really weird that we haven't like visited on that angle yet. But I would imagine that that's probably going to happen soon. Because she's like one of the better, like one of the more fun characters.
Melly, I would say I relate to the most. Like, I would say I relate to Alfie the most, but everyone knows I'm a freak. Like, I don't hide it. Like, at least people think Alfie's innocent. Like, I'm definitely a Melly.
Yeah, you're a demon.
If I had the opportunity, I would fuck Curtis in front of people at a fire. Like, that'd be so cool.
Oh my, what a nightmare.
You know? But anyway, I relate the most to Melly. I love that she, like, married her husband for, like, money, and she's just open about it. She's like, yeah, like, I don't care. He can fuck who he wants. I married him for the money. Like, yeah. And it just doesn't matter. So cool.
Yeah, and then the husband, Derek, I already got my thing out of the way with him, is that I feel like they should have given my boy a gay scene.
They should have. I do agree with that. I like Derek a lot because I like that even though his wife is a raging bitch, he's still nice to her and he still cares about her and Alfie and what they want. Also, like the first thing he says when he finds out his wife is cheating on him is, "Oh my God, that's so good for you. I've been telling you to find someone who will make you feel loved. Like you need that." He's so cool.
And I don't think he really needs to come back because I feel like he was like there as a foil. He wasn't like really a character that needed an arc. He was just there to like be chill and off.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Okay, so that pretty much covers it for the early chapters. That's like chapters, I would probably say up to like five or so before it switches. So now we're in color. And we're
in the next arc.
Yeah, we're in the next big arc.
Alfie's left.
Alfie is with the caravan, and her and Marco are just traveling the countryside, just drilling each other relentlessly.
Yeah.
And Marco has a friend in the caravan who is a big buff lesbian named Lydia.
I love Lydia.
Who is and Lydia, Marco, and Alfie are kind of like the main trio of characters that
this arc, yeah.
That we follow through their little adventures.
Yeah.
And during this point, the story will go between those three on the caravan and all the wacky shit that they're getting up to, and Vera as she is trying to catch up with the caravan.
Because Vera also meets up with someone pretty soon into the chapter. A guy who is supposed to take her over to find the caravan.
And I didn't write that guy's name down. I was going back through it, writing characters' names down, and then
I don't know, but
distracted.
he looks like Kurt Russell.
He does.
He looks like Kurt Russell. That's all I can do.
Let me get his name real fast.
Cillian, yeah.
While Vera is on her way to find Alfie, she needs like a guide to get through the mountains, and she hires a guy named Cillian, who's this big buff, like fucking lumberjack.
And he's a drunk when they first meet.
Yeah,
but we'll get into that later.
So before we get into that subplot, let's cover what happens to the main. Actually, you know what? Let's cover this subplot first, because it's a lot shorter and a lot less shit happens.
That's true.
On this subplot.
Okay, so Vera has a friend who is like, hey, I have a guy. He can get you through the mountains. Meet him here, blah, blah, blah. She goes to meet him, and he's fucking wasted. And he has, like, long hair. He looks like a piece of shit. Like, he just drunk, whatever. And she's like, screw this. I'm not going with you. I'll do it on my own. And he's like,
yeah. And then we have a really funny scene where he's like, oh, really? And then he points out, like, all the other guides in the bar, and they're, like, 100 times sketchier looking than he is.
Mm-hmm. She ends up agreeing to go. And she's like, meet me here in the morning, whatever. So she goes to meet him in the morning, and he has his hair cut, his beard trimmed. He like looks really presentable, really
he's
nice.
Fire.
And right off the bat, he's really friendly. Like he's just like chirping out jokes. Like he's super friendly. And Vera's just like, we're here to do a job. Yeah, like shut the fuck up.
And he's not like hitting on her or anything. He's just a nice dude.
Yeah,
and Vera is being the rancid bitch that she always is through this entire fucking story.
Yeah. And Cillian eventually is like, okay, well, I'm not, like, if you don't want me to talk to you, just say so, but you don't have to be a bitch, basically,
right.
You know?
And
this is right when they're watching those ogres fuck.
Oh, no,
that was cool.
I was about to say, there's a part where they're trying to catch up to the caravan where they get, like, waylaid and have to, like, wait out the night because there's, like, these two giant cyclopses that are fucking in a valley, and they can't, like, go through the valley because the cyclopses are in it. And I think, do we get any other, like, cameo sex scenes in any other part of the story
of this subplot?
No, like in general, because like I think the Cyclops one is like one, because all of the other sex scenes are like related.
Not
to the plot
in this arc.
Yeah. So anyway,
I
think we get the Cyclops sex scene cameo.
Vera realizes she was a bitch and apologizes to Cillian.
Yeah. And then
a storm.
Yeah, they get snowed in on a mountain.
Yeah, and he is like, follow me, I know somewhere, and they actually end up going back to Cillian's house, which is in the side of a mountain.
Was it his house? I missed that. Or is it just like a cabin? I thought it was just
his
like a cabin.
House. No, it was his house.
Okay.
He built it. That was his house.
Mm-hmm.
He built that with his bare hands.
His
big man.
Big fucking rough dad hands.
Yes. Anyway. I don't know why I said
so they get snowed in, and Vera, a couple of days in, Vera starts doing this bit where she's like dropping stuff and bending over and like grabbing stuff off the shelf and like putting her tits in his face and like just trying to like sexually bully him as much as possible until he caves. And obviously, since this is a porno comic, he eventually does cave and pulls out his magnum cock.
Holy shit, dude. Those are some of the best scenes. I'm gonna tell you. The first time my little bzzing friend came out was during a Sicilian scene.
Really? I would have thought that you would have lost during the Millie and Alfie scene. Would have been my bet.
Millie and Alfie was good.
Yeah.
But it was predictable.
Right.
The Cillian one, I was like, where's this going?
Yeah.
You know?
So this starts the big Vera and Cillian arc, which is still ongoing because I think they're still traveling together, right? Or no,
I think they're exclusive.
Yeah.
They are exclusive right now. Anyway, but they weren't at first.
Right. So they start banging in this house up in the mountains. And they're getting to know each other like more and more and more over time. And Vera like tells a little bit of her story
about her daughter and why she's
and all
like,
that
traveling.
Stuff. And then Cillian tells his whole arc about how he had
his snake girlfriend.
He had a snake girlfriend that's like what do they call the race of snake people?
I'm not sure.
Do they call them Nagas or do they call them something else?
I think it's Nagas.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. But
if you imagine sort of the classic Naga / Medusa archetype,
I want to put in a little disclaimer here. I love that like elves are portrayed as like feminine BDSM baddies, and snake people are like whorehouse slut.
Yeah,
like they just want to be fucked. They just want your juices. I love that so much.
So the way they explain it is like, okay, so they're like snake people, where if you imagine like the upper half is human and the lower half is snake, you've seen this was well-tread territory. Okay, so he talks about how he lived in this city that was run by the snake people, and he was like an orphan or whatever, and he got taken in.
Yeah,
and the snake
he grew up with one of the girls,
and one of the staples of the Nagas are they run like brothels and stuff. Because if you ever watch like a nature documentary, you know how snakes do that thing where they all get into like a big, huge breeding fuck pile where it will be like 200 snakes. So the way that they describe it is this is like, imagine that, but like the snakes have evolved to have human intelligence, so they're always in big fuck piles anyway because that's how they reproduce. So it's really, really easy for them. And
they enjoy it. It talks about specifically how much they enjoy it.
Yeah, so it's really easy for them to slot into just running brothels and making insane money. So
did you hear that, boys? That's the sound of the fun cannon.
Yeah. So and he's got the snake girlfriend, right? And they're together, and they're like in love. And I think she was the daughter of like the madam of the brothel, right?
Yes, she was. Yeah. And the madam really likes Cillian.
Yeah.
And the daughter was like in love, and they were engaged, her and Cillian.
Right.
But we later find out that she wrote like this poem book that's really just a story about her talking about how she's disappointed in herself for not being satisfied with Cillian and wanting to be fucked by many people at once.
Yeah, so his snake girlfriend basically leaves him at the altar because she wants to get into big fuck piles, and he goes into real sad boy hours and leaves the city.
He doesn't leave at first.
Yeah, it takes a little while.
At first, he's kind of just a mess, and he's drunk, and he stumbles in a bunch of times trying to find her in the fuck piles. But
and I should say at this point, so this is one of the side tangents that I have in this episode. The snake pussy is like weird. Yeah. It's in a weird spot.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but at one point, one of the females, the ones that are portrayed with a pussy earlier on, it looks like they pull something out of their vagina. So I think that they're hermaphroditic.
Right.
I think the snake people have wieners.
Okay. That would make, because it doesn't really like, and this always happens when like you're looking at like some monster girl drawing, or like, what is that fucking manga with all the monster girls? Fuck, I was talking about
High School DxD.
No, it's not.
Well, that one's
so anyway. There's a snake girl in that one too, and like it's always a weird vibe on the snake pussy.
I think they're like just hermaphroditic.
Front. So anyway, this all happens, and so snake pussy's getting a low review from me.
Low review if it's just bad drawing. High review if it's hermaphroditic. Because I would love to like lick a pussy and then suck a wiener.
Yeah, like simultaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got him. Yeah, that's goddamn, dude. I'm getting old. Okay, so.
Here, take a drink, bud. Bud.
After this whole arc of Cillian telling his whole sad boy story,
Vera telling her sad boy story,
whole sad boy story,
they get exclusive.
Yeah, they're pretty into it, and that's kind of how that whole shakes out. This I think is where Vera has like some of the best character development.
I agree.
Where like
she becomes sweeter.
Yeah. She's finally like not as much of a bitch by this point.
Yeah. She realizes that what her daughter did is fine. She's like, I literally like pegged an elf boy. Like I'm worse, you know? Like
yeah. So let's rewind back to the main three trio and start going through
one of my favorite scenes.
Their whole saga.
Alfie and Marco banging. And now originally, Alfie liked to watch people bang, but she didn't like people seeing her. She was really secretive about it. This is her first big character movement.
And this is the opening chapter of like chapter 6 or something.
She's fucking Marco in her like hotel or her room or wherever she's staying, the inn she's at. Yeah. And the door, or like the window curtains are open. And she looks over and she sees Lydia. Yeah. And at first, she's like, oh, we need to close the curtains. But then
Lydia gives her the look.
Doesn't Lydia flash her titties too?
Yeah, she flashes
She pulls her titties out.
Yeah.
And holy shit, Alfie goes ham.
Yeah,
she
hard,
is like
dude.
making eyes at Lydia while she's banging Marco, dude. That is where it starts, and it is beautiful.
Yeah. So my memory of this part of the story is a little bit fuzzy.
Oh, well, I got it.
What happens between this point and when they get to the Redwood? Because I remember the Redwood shit really well.
Okay, so what happens? Here's what happens. Lydia makes it a game with Marco to try and be like, I'm going to steal your girl.
Yeah, because after she pulls her titties out on the balcony, she's like, oh, she's like into women, so we're competing now.
Yes. And at first, Marco is kind of like, knock it the fuck off, Lydia, like blah, blah, blah.
Because Marco...
And then Alfie comes up and she's like, we aren't exclusive.
Yeah.
We agreed on that already. Yeah. We agreed on that in the town. We are not exclusive.
Well, because both of them, at this point in the story, Marco and Alfie are both like kind of in denial about how much they like each other.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So then they're hanging out with Lydia. And I think Lydia tries to like kiss up on Alfie once before.
Yeah, there's like some shenanigans that happens before this, but this is the main bullet point.
But the main bullet point is they're all three hanging out together. And Alfie and Lydia start to kind of like get it on. They're making eyes, they're making jokes.
They start to honk.
They start kissing, they start whatever, and they're basically Marco's just like watching. He's like, yeah, you two do whatever. I'm enjoying the show.
Yeah, we're playing a little game I like to call three-way chicken.
Dude, I want to play that so bad. Anyway, holy shit, that sounds like the funnest game. Either way, anyway. Well, they start fucking, and then they invite Marco in, and I think what happens is, I think how it starts, like the thing I'm moving into is, Alfie is being drilled by Marco while she's simultaneously eating Lydia's pussy. Yeah. Like, I think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And then...
How is this relevant to the plot?
No, listen. This is where Lydia has some character development. Yeah, Lydia, big, strong lesbian woman, doesn't like men. All the men in her caravan have tried to sleep with her. She's a lesbian. Doesn't matter. Right as Marco is like about to finish, or it portrays it as he is, she pulls his wiener out of Alfie and starts sucking it.
Yeah. Damn. What a scandal.
She's like, I want to try. Like, I've never done this before. Let me try. Well, then it moves into her getting fucked by him, and it's like this whole thing. And there's a part in that where she's on top, and you can see he keeps being like, Lydia, like, hold on. Like, I'm gonna, like, you need to get, Lydia. And he comes inside a human, which with a halfling, it's not a problem.
Oh, fuck. I just, like... That just brain blasted me into a fucking whole thing for later on. Oh,
yes,
shit.
I know. Don't you? This is literally, yes, okay.
Okay, so that's really important.
So, yes, that's very important.
So remember that, and also remember that Lydia is confirmed bisexual now. Remember that, because I'm going to go on a whole rant about it a little bit later on. So... This sort of like this arc.
She's also very embarrassed after this happens, and is like really weird about it, and doesn't want people to know because she's big, strong lesbian, and she goes on this rampage where she starts just fucking all the women in the camp. Yeah,
she goes on a fucking just a tear through push. She burns through the witches and slams through the bitches or whatever he says in that song. So anyway,
that's awesome.
So that arc ends, and that establishes like the dynamic between the three of them. At this point, the three of them are like
buddies,
are like friends.
Chums.
Yeah, they're all like good friends who are also fucking, but also like just going on a sex rampage through like every town that the caravan passes through. So they are just slinging genitals,
pussy,
something
dong,
furious, dude.
Everything.
Yeah. So then we get. This is where we get to the next, like, big arc that takes up, like, I feel like this is almost, like, a third of the
I would say.
This arc is really where it seems like
this arc has, like, one minor arc in it that comes with a different character.
This arc seems like where he's really sort of, like, digging his heels in for the long con and being like, okay, these arcs are, like, about to go off. Now the caravan starts moving through a place called Redwood, which is, like, this sick... sort of fantasy forest where all the foliage is red and the plants are like these living trees that sort of like consume normal ground, so people are like trying to keep these trees at bay, and the forest is very like spooky, evil, like living forest vibes. And it looks fucking dope. Like the way that it's drawn and the way the plants are drawn and like the detail he puts in it. It looks sick.
My favorite line from the comic is in this part. And we're going to say that first because it was just so good. They may look like trees, smell like trees, and walk like trees, but these red cunts ain't trees at all. That, I think, so far has been the best.
Yeah, that goes pretty fire.
With this they're entering the Redwood. We're talking about the art stuff looking cool.
Yeah.
They hire a person who is from the Vakari species.
That's what it was, right? Because the Vakari species are native to the Redwood.
Yes, and they are described almost as like a devilish looking, like they're supposed to look like goats.
Yeah, they look.
They
like
talk
fawns.
a lot about how the women have all have beards and mustaches and don't look like women at all. Like it's just kind of like that.
I missed that part. Did they say
yes.
That?
So,
I mean, I did realize they were all kind of like sexually ambiguous.
Yes.
Later.
So we introduce character Ozga, who is a female Vakari.
And I should say that her name is pronounced or spelled Ozge.
I read it as ooze that whole time, and I don't know why.
I don't know. Like Ozga makes sense, right? Because like like Ozga? Like
Ozga? I think you're right.
Ozga. Yeah.
Unless there's a weird like sound that the ZG
I'm sure
makes.
That somebody in the comments will yell at me.
But anyway, she gets introduced. She's a female, and one of the things they know about her is that she looks a lot more like a female than any other Vakari.
And we should also like describe the Vakari are like huge. They're like 8 feet tall,
but they're very slender.
And yeah, they're like 8 feet tall, really skinny. But you know what? They kind of look like the Na'vi from Avatar.
Yeah.
Imagine the Na'vi from Avatar, but like with a goat's face.
Yeah, and not bright blue. They're a little bit like purpley.
Yeah, they're like a gray. And they've got sort of like
very
horns.
Slender. They have some horns. Yes. So yes.
Yeah. And they're like freakishly strong.
Yeah.
Like there's that scene where Lydia is trying to draw Ozga's bow and like can't even move the string on it. Yeah. So there's like they're really huge and really
so big. we meet Ozga, and Ozga is going to be basically their guard through the Redwood as they travel through it, because they're trying to get to the town where the Vakari live.
Yeah, because they're trying to get like a better
the Redwood
deal.
Kingdom or something. Yeah,
because they're trying to get better relations with them so that they can pass through the forest more easily. Yeah, because passing through the forest is a huge fucking pain in the ass because the trees are trying to kill you.
So they're on their way to that. We have Ozga introduced. We've got Alfie and all her trio banging and fucking it up.
Yeah.
They start to head through the Redwood, and Alfie is curious about Ozga and also the forest, because one of the things they tell her is don't go in there, the trees will kill you, like you stay with us. And there's like once or twice she runs out into it and gets fucked up, but Ozga is a very shy whatever. I love Ozga. I kind of love Ozga. I kind of don't. And this is kind of, we'll get into it later, but after the whole Ozga-Alfie meeting happens, this is where I start to kind of not like Alfie anymore.
Yeah, well, I also have a lot to say about that. They get to the, is it Vakari?
No, it's like the Redwood Castle or something.
No, they get to the Vakari is like the species, right?
Yeah.
So they get to the Vakari like main town. And the Vakari are like heavily so remember how Alfie comes from like a really conservative village where like nobody is chill and like everybody's like homophobic and like everything's very like you need to get married when you're fucking 19, like that kind of shit. So the Vakari village is very obviously intended to be the exact opposite of the
so they have
village.
Families, and I'm doing air quotes right now, you can't see it, but they have families, but it's not really like blood related families. It's like they have fuck families.
Yeah, they have like gigantic polyamorous families. Yeah. So the same way that the Halfling village has the festival every year where they do a celebration of being like conservative and monogamous, where all of the girls look like midsummer girls and all, it's like a very like festival of purity type thing. So the Vakari have a festival once a year where you're allowed to cheat on your partner. So this just devolves into like a gigantic like village wide orgy.
Yeah.
Because they're already polyamorous anyway, so they're not shy about like fucking in front of other people and stuff.
One of their big things is you can't be selfish.
Yeah.
They talk about it a lot. They say, humans not selfish? Like they're questioning it.
So the mirror here is Alfie is like kind of a freak from a conservative village who wants to like go out and like get her pussy eaten and that kind of stuff. But Ozga is like a super conservative.
She doesn't want to take part in the fucking. She doesn't. She thinks that you should care, like you should love somebody and have a relationship.
Yeah, so she wants to be monogamous, and in her village, that makes her the freak because the culture is reversed.
Yeah, and I want to point out that throughout the time that they're traveling to the Redwood, castle, Ozga and Alfie are kind of getting to know each other. They're hanging out a lot.
Yeah.
She stops hanging out with Marco and Lydia so much because she realizes that Lydia has feelings for Marco.
The night of the big fuck party comes around, and the Elf King, who is like the leader of this... Yeah.
Wasn't Lydia and Marco being like recognized as heroes for something?
That happens a little bit later.
No, that was during the fuck party. Because they made him get dressed up.
Yeah.
They killed something. Oh, and
there's something really important that happens here. So Marco and the boys kill one of like the living trees. And
it was Marco and Alfie.
Yeah. They kill one of the living trees, and Lydia was there too, yeah. So they kill one of the living trees, and in the Vakari society, killing one of these trees is like a big deal. It's like their version of, you know how like native tribes will have sort of like coming of age ceremonies, like that one that I think, somewhere in the Pacific Islands they do, where you have to like go out and kill the whale, and like that's how you become a man.
Is that Inuit?
No, not the Inuits. But I mean, there's a bunch of like the Maasai would kill a lion. You'd have to go out and kill a lion.
Oh, there was one where you'd have to like be hung by your nipples. Stuff
like that.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
For the Vakari tribe, killing one of these trees is like their thing of like, oh, you're like a part of a tribe and a badass or whatever. So Marco and Lydia get like a hero's welcome back to the village, and they're like, oh, sweet, we can use this as like leverage to get into the negotiations with these guys. So the big fuck festival happens after that. And during the festival, Marco and Lydia go to meet with like the chief of
the head family.
The head family of this big village.
Yes.
And
this is so crazy.
And they sort of like pick up on in the negotiations that the Vakari kind of have like bonobo vibes, and they use like sex as a form of communication.
Yeah.
So of course, since this is a porn comic, Marco and Lydia realize like, oh, we're gonna have to fuck our way out of this one.
Yes. And one of my favorite Marco character development pieces happens here.
Yeah. So they get involved in this like fucking wild sex pile with the Vakari, and Marco starts sucking on a cock.
No, you're missing it. You're missing it. First, he's talking to one of the male Vakari, one of the head family members, and he's like, "Oh, humans are selfish. Like blah blah blah. Why is human here?" Yeah. And he's like, "We're not selfish at all." Yeah. And the guy, started sucking Marco's dick first,
right?
And then got up and went to fuck him in the ass, and Marco was like, "No."
And then
Lydia comes over and like to save it, because at first they're like, "Oh, we know humans are selfish," blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Lydia comes over and is like, "Well, no. He's new to it, but he'll suck your dick for you."
Right.
And it's her helping Marco suck dick, and that is so cool.
And then so they get in this big fuck pile, and then now Marco is confirmed bisexual.
I don't think he is confirmed bisexual yet.
He definitely is. Remember that, because I'm going to yell about it later. So while all of this is going on, one of the things that they had to like negotiate and got pulled into the fuck pile over is that Ozga has gone missing, and they're accusing the caravan of like kidnapping her. And this whole time, while like that arc was happening, Ozga and Alfie are getting like closer together, and the village of Vakari are getting increasingly pissed off at the humans and Alfie. So Alfie is like kind of on the Vakari shit list at this point, which is going to be very important soon.
Yeah.
So Alfie and Ozga have like this little moment where they've snuck off because Ozga doesn't want to be out in the big fuck piles for the festival.
Yeah, and Alfie is just trying to get pussy.
Yeah, and they have a good time, and they hook up, and Alfie is like, you know what, I think I could try maybe being like exclusive with a person. Like, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen?
Yeah.
And so they have their whole thing after the big goat person 3-way, or a million way. Everything is kind of going well at this point. Like, it's Alfie has said, okay, I'm gonna be monogamous with this goat lady for a while. And Lydia and Marco have like fucked a bunch and are kind of like figuring out like their own vibe. So it's like, okay, this is going to work out. Wrong.
Yeah. This part gave me anxiety.
So the day after the festival, a bunch of things happen. First of all, on the caravan, there's a group of people who are like religious fanatics, and one lady is a nun, and they're like trying to pretend
I forgot about her.
They're trying to pretend like they're like holier than thou and are like exiling and like being an asshole to like people who participate.
And
in
they
the big
think
orgy.
Alfie is like some precious gift from God.
And the whole time, the comic paints all of them as hypocrites because it talks about how like during the big village-wide orgy, like almost nobody was in the caravan. So the implication is that like all the people that are like acting.
They talk about the main girl looking for her other.
Yeah, like
friends.
they're all
and
the people,
it's literally just her.
And they start wearing these like little purity badges to show that like they didn't go to the fuck party, but like almost all of them are lying.
Yeah.
And so the night after the festival, they get in another huge standoff with the Vakari people because even though they kind of smoothed things over the night before, the next day they're still trying to accuse the caravan of like basically kidnapping Ozga or whatever.
Yeah.
And it gets into like this tense showdown, and Alfie, Marco, and Lydia kind of like talk the situation down. It's mostly Alfie. This is kind of a like, heroic moment. And they talk the village down, but during this big heated conversation, Alfie gets outed as...
By Lydia.
Yeah, by Lydia as her, Lydia, and Marco like basically being like a three-way fuck buddy trio.
Yeah.
And this pisses everybody off. And Ozga is there.
Ozga off because
this part is a little bit of a ripoff too because Alfie says like, okay, I'm gonna be monogamous with Ozga, but she doesn't like have enough time to explain the situation. Like, hey, I was with these people and I'm breaking
Ozga
up with them now. Yeah,
and that's not what she was mad about.
You think she was mad?
She gets mad about Alfie lying about it because Alfie gets outed, and they're like, "Yeah, we fucked," like blah blah blah, and she denies it.
Yeah.
She says, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And Ozga knows. Ozga knows that this happened, and she's like, "You're lying. You shouldn't have lied because then Lydia is getting exiled, and like now a bunch of guys are hitting on her." And
so now what happens is everybody knows that Marco and Lydia suck each other off and got into the big fuck pile. So like half the caravan that are the religious Puritans like are pissed off at them, so it's made their life harder. And now Alfie is in with the religious Puritans. And her friends hate her because she like betrayed them.
The only reason Ozga's still there is that because Ozga was hired as a personal bodyguard.
Yeah, and Ozga's super pissed, and she's trapped in a situation where she has to like work with her like shitty ex now.
Yeah, and she tries. Okay, so here's my take on this. Ozga should have fucking known better. This is your first relationship. Yeah. It's not gonna fucking last. You shouldn't have like made a commitment. You know.
You know how it is when you're
also
like 20.
Alfie. Piece of shit. She talked so much with Marco about how she didn't want to settle down, how she knew she just wanted to go out and fuck. Yeah. And then she's like, no, I can do it. Like, I'll be with you. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, because she was thinking...
Alfie kind of sucked in that moment.
She was thinking with her clit, which I will talk about later. So...
That's, accurate.
So...
I'm always thinking with my second head.
Yeah. So...
My clitoral head.
I knew which head you were talking about, Emma.
It was funny, though.
So during this arc where everybody's pissed off at each other, Alfie catches the nun, who is like the leader of the religious Puritans, just sucking off this orc bodyguard, just taking his whole gigantic dick.
It was awesome.
And so they set up this whole thing about how she's a huge hypocrite. And of course, Alfie is like watching them fuck because she always manages to find herself in a position where she's watching somebody fuck.
She's Peeper.
Yeah, and then Alfie confronts the nun lady and is like, "You're fucking like you're a liar. This whole thing
you like accused me of this and this and this, and Lydia of this and this.
This whole thing is a fraud. This is all bullshit."
And the nun lady acts as if she has no idea. She's like, "Did I really do that to you? I'm so sorry."
Yeah, huge bitch.
Yeah,
I forget her name.
I don't care about her name. I don't care. She's a bitch.
Okay, so
she tries to redeem herself. At this point they've been traveling out of the Redwood and towards the Goblin village, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And then how? So fuck.
It wasn't originally a Goblin village. It was a quiet little village.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
they're traveling towards a village.
How does... Before we get into the Goblin Village part, which is the very end of the story, how does the drama between the three of them resolve?
Okay, so it resolves and then it gets worse again.
So what they were doing is since Lydia and Marco are like heroes because of the tree thing, they've started doing this like traveling play.
Yes.
To like be actors and make more money.
So they're training for the play. And here's the thing. So Alfie and this Puritan lady start talking and she's like, well, then we just need to do it. Like, and after talking with Ozga, they've all basically been like, you just need to tell the truth and like apologize, right? To get your friends back. And she's like, Alfie, her whole thing is like, yeah, I have to do this. It's going to suck telling the truth and like being outed, whatever. But I have to do it. So what she does is her and this nun lady have a plan. And they're supposed to tell it together. they're supposed to go in and she's supposed to be like, I'm right. with the ogre, whatever. I
totally forgot about this.
All this. So Alfie says her thing and tells the main like head like lady, Puritan lady, right. Like, I did do this. It was not a lie. I shouldn't have lied, whatever. And they're all calling her a whore and a slut and whatever, all that.
Yeah.
And then the other lady chickens out and is like, just doesn't say anything about her ogre. So Alfie's pissed. Well, then Alfie goes to find Marco and Lydia, who are practicing for their play.
Yeah. They're in rehearsals.
And she finds Lydia outside and is like, hey, I told the truth. Like, I'm sorry. And Lydia's like, oh, did you now? And then, like, proceeds to eat the pussy off that bitch. She ate that pussy off the bone.
Yeah, they immediately make up and start fucking. And then Marco comes out and is like, oh, you guys are getting along. And everybody makes up. And with the three parties.
Except for
Except for Ozga.
Ozga. Because Ozga, as a bodyguard, when Alfie left the tent, Ozga was out there. Because Ozga has to follow her. So Ozga heard right after that whole thing... Yeah, after they break up, she went and fucked. And she basically told Ozga, she was like, I like to fuck. What are you going to do about it? And Ozga was like, I don't know, dude. You paid me to be here.
Ozga is eating shit at this point in the story. Just getting owned left and right.
Yeah. So that is like right. That's where everybody makes up again. But other than Ozga. That
kind of concludes. That is the end of the Redwood arc. And that was like, that's the longest and most complicated arc in the story. So we should probably do like a really fast recap. So the caravan enters the Redwood, and they're trying to get to the Redwood village of the Vicari so that they can get better relations with them.
There's a three-way.
There's a three-way where we find out that Marco is also probably bisexual.
And that Lydia is confirmed bisexual.
Yeah, and
we have a big fight.
And we have a big fight because Alfie pisses everybody off from lying.
Alfie makes up with the two of them, but not Ozga, after the sex party.
Right. So now we're in a situation where Ozga is still mad, but the three of them have made up.
Yeah,
and also we had the whole nun arc of her being a hypocrite.
Yeah.
And which we should probably talk about the orc because he hasn't come back yet. He seems like cool.
The orc is pretty sick. I like the part where he talks about how like other orc women don't give blowjobs because they have tusks and it hurts.
Yeah, and also when he talks about how like the reason that he's attracted to the nun is because she looks like an orc woman but softer.
Also, like, how he's missing an eye because his wife got to take his eye.
Yeah. The orc is a cool character. Now we're out of Redwood, and we're in this city.
The other thing about the orcs that I wanted to say.
Yeah.
They can just get hard instantly. That was so cool. Because the fucking girl is like, oh, like, that was so quick. Yeah. Like, don't you need a minute to, like... And he's like, no. Like, he talks about human men being not superior.
I remember inferior. I remember getting to that part and being like, this is fucking bullshit because I've been reading this comic for like 900 pages at this point and the dudes just fuck again immediately, like in every sex scene.
There's usually at least one talking scene in between.
I mean,
there usually is. At least with any of the males, there's a talking scene in between. Which for some men, that's all it takes is like a minute or two of just talking and then like it's on again. No, this was it. He ejaculated, barely went soft and was
he's fucking,
right back ready.
He's loading another one into the chamber.
Yeah, basically, which is awesome.
Yeah, so very cool. And
very
so
cool,
now
very
we're
fun.
On the current arc that's still ongoing. And this part, in my opinion, is some of the worst writing in the entire comic. And
it's also the worst Alfie in the entire...
Yeah.
I don't like Alfie in this at all. Once she basically tells I keep wanting to say Ogs, I don't know. Ozga. Once she tells Ozga, like, I like fucking deal with it, like move on.
Yeah.
Then she kind of goes to shit. She kind of flies off the wire a little bit. Yeah. She's not thinking.
So, I was tired. So at this point, she's agreed to work for Alduin, which is the elf that her mom...
At this point, she's been fired from Alduin. She's trying to get her job back from Alduin. Okay. Because Alduin filed her for all the drama that she had been causing Lydia and Marco to miss practice for their play.
Just a sidebar. This is like there's a couple of things that are like really fucking awkward about this, and I'll talk about most of them later, but I'll drop this footnote right here. It's so fucking weird that like she knows that this guy has like fucked her mom. And she's like, but he's like gross about it, and she's like working for him. That's weird. And then also,
I don't think it's that weird. He's not that gross about it. He just talks about how his mom and her mom and him were like good friends.
And there's this weird tension between the elf and Alfie where like you can tell that like he would do it.
Oh, he would 100% do it.
Where you're like,
and that's the thing I like where they paint the picture of the elves is they're just sex freaks.
Yeah, there's this whole tension.
Because I feel like in his mind he's like, damn, like her mom can like rule me. Maybe she can too.
There's like this weird like semi-incestual thing about it that's like kind of gross.
I don't think it's incestual.
So one of the other,
I think Alfie would do it.
And speaking of,
I think Alfie should do it.
Speaking of that topic, there was that one scene in the very beginning where like her mom is like asking to like, talk with her, and she's like, "Oh, can you brush my hair real fast?" I was so scared in that scene that she was going to fuck her mom. I was terrified. I was like, "Is this about to take a dark turn?"
I wasn't scared for that at all.
But that didn't happen. There's no incest in this comic so far. Okay, so
Alfie got fired from leather working for Alduin because she caused drama in the camp and all that.
So now everybody has made up, and
except
she's
for
like, okay,
Ozga.
Except for Ozga, and she's like, okay, how do I get my job back? And
Alduin is a dick.
Yeah,
to her.
and this part of the story is so fucking bizarre because he like.
Also, I want to point out, Cillian and Vera are reaching the town like a day after, or like Cillian, very similarly to when they get there.
Cillian and Vera are meeting.
They're currently in the town looking for them.
The Goblin town, which is where we
also,
are right now.
Goblins weren't originally there. It was originally a small town, and the goblins showed up. So the caravan shows up and is like, okay, we're here to put on our play. And the goblin lady is basically like, sorry, we didn't plan for this. There's no tickets, there's no seats, there's no stage. Sorry. So Alduin is pissed.
Yeah. The goblins have taken over. It's like, you remember that joke in 30 Rock where Tracy Morgan tells the joke about a pack of wild dogs taking over a Wendy's and running it for a week?
That's crazy.
This village has been taken over by a pack of wild goblins, and
it's awesome.
And they're not really,
and they're fuck freaks.
Yeah, of course. So at this point, Alfie's like, "How do I get my job back?" And then she gets this like, her and Alduin, who's the Elf King, are talking, and she's like, and he kind of like implies, he's like, "Oh, if you get me into a 3-way with Lydia and Marco, then I'll give you your job back." And this part is insane because you would think like, okay, they've made up. At this point in the story,
she should have just asked him.
Yeah, and everybody is confirmed down to fuck. So, but instead of like doing that and being like, "Hey, will you guys?"
Well, I think partly Lydia. It's they talk about how Lydia hates Alduin. Lydia cannot stand Alduin.
Right. Yeah.
But I also feel like if Alfie had gone up to her and been like, "Hey, you get to like step on this man's nuts and call him a piece of shit," she might do it.
Right. So, but instead of going up to her friends and being like, "Look, can you guys like suck this dude off real quick and like step on his balls so I can get like my job back and start making money?" She concocts this like,
"Oh, we forgot one thing.
What do we forget?
Important thing. When Alfie and Lydia are fucking in the tent, like after they made up, Alfie starts to suspect Lydia's pregnant because they make a joke about it and she gets weird about it. That was important.
Yeah, that is important.
We also see, before this whole scheme, the thing we're talking about right at this moment, Lydia and Marco are fucking a couple goblins, and the goblins make a comment that she tastes different and that she's with baby.
That she smells different. The goblin gets down there and sniffs her pussy.
No, she tasted her pussy. It was eating her pussy. And she said, "This tastes different. You have a baby."
Yeah.
And Marco's like, "What the fuck?" And she basically blows off Marco and is like, "It doesn't matter. Like, nothing's wrong. I'm not pregnant."
And
like,
there's this big drama. And the's this big drama where Marco's like, "Well, if you're pregnant, we can like take this like seriously.
And get married and blah, blah." And she's like, "I don't want to get married.
He says like settle down somewhere."
No, he says get married.
Yeah, so the point is, he's like, okay, well, and she's like in denial about it. Cut back over to the whole Elf King situation. So instead of just explaining the situation to her friends like a normal person, Alfie concocts this like insane scam where she like tells a lie to Marco and then tells a lie to Lydia to like get them into the same spot so that all three of them are like there. And then she's like, okay, everybody fuck.
Not really. First she gets Lydia there. Lydia is like talking shit to Alduin, and Alduin is like getting hard, and then Lydia starts to like bang him, and then Alfie's kind of just in the corner quietly. Then Marco shows up, and Marco comes over, and she's like, dang, suck. She's like, Lydia makes Alduin, the king, suck Marco's dick.
Yeah.
And then Alfie's like, hey, like, this is cool, right, guys? And they're basically like, fuck you, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like, who do you think you are? You lied to us. You could have just told us.
Yeah, you put us in this weird situation. So now Alfie is in real emo hours and is like, you know what? I'm going to go chill with the goblins for a little bit because that's a new...
It's not originally what she decided. Originally, she climbed up above the little place where Alduin was meeting to watch. Right. She climbed up to peep. And there was another goblin there.
Yeah.
And the thing that's really cool that I like about this is that goblins don't know what the fuck halflings are. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Because they were like, what the fuck are you? Like, we thought that you were basically just like a fucked up goblin.
Because the way that Encase draws the halflings, he draws them like most porn artists draw goblins. And then his goblins are like a little bit different. Like, their hands are different. They've only got like 3 fingers. And they've only got 3 toes. And their like features are a little bit pointier. But for the most part, they're
similar to the halfling.
Yeah.
So the goblins didn't know what she was. So she had to tell them, I'm a halfling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they invite her out to party with the goblins. And they give her like a goblin makeover.
They do. And this is where I want to insert my joke.
Job. Yeah.
Okay, so the whole new Alfie transformation's coming up. She's getting ready for this party, and basically the goblins are like, you're ugly, let's fix you.
Yeah.
They, like, give her, like, some makeup to make her look a little bit more green. Yeah. They cut and dye her hair, and I want to I just want to insert here. Why do you think my hair is short and blue? You think that this was, like, you want to know why this was?
Dude.
It's because she has the blue in the front.
So she gets invited. She gets invited to a goblin party, and this is where the main goblin who's like facilitating all this is my girl Rug, who is the best.
I forgot about her name. I love Rug.
Who is the best character in the entire story? Best
Rug
girl
is
Rug.
So good.
Okay, so and basically we end. So far, the story is.
She met like a goat man and she like sucks him off and she's like, oh, he's smaller than humans, like I can like whatever, and then Rug comes in with a monster. I think that's how they call it. It's just a monster.
No, he's the bull man. He's like a big minotaur.
Oh, okay, yes. And they come in and with someone else, and then Bullman and Rug are fucking, and then Rug and Alfie are fucking hard. I think Alfie's going to try and suck Minotaur's dick. I think it's going to be crazy. Because she talks about her skills in sucking dick, you know. Alfie's kind of going off of the wire here. I think Alfie's kind of manic.
This is definitely...
She's having like a mania moment.
Yeah, this is definitely her manic moment. So she's partying with... So the story is currently ending at... She's at this goblin party sucking and fucking.
Yeah, and her mother is in the same town with Cillian trying to find her. Yes. That's where we've left off.
So now that we've gone through... all of that, let's talk about some of the characters in the writing now that we've laid out context for like the entire story.
The main plot characters that we haven't really talked about yet.
So one of the things that I like is that all of the problems that people are running up against are the exact types of problems that you would expect from people who fuck a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Like they're always like running into weird drama with each other. They're always like the whole Alfie thing with Ozga. She was probably like, oh, I can just like fuck everybody else and it's no big deal. Like, why would this be any different? Yeah. And she ends up like actually like seriously fucking somebody over. Like all of the, it's funny because so in case.
Also, Ozga is like very naive and I feel like it's not Alfie's responsibility to like shelter, like like.
But she's also being a bitch.
But also, yeah.
And so, because in case is, from what I can tell, looking
at a god.
Is first of all, he is some sort of lesser deity walking among men. But second of all, he's obviously, or not obviously, I think based on some of the stuff that I read on the Patreon, is probably bisexual. And I would imagine that on some level, he's probably had a little bit of like a wild sex life, because that just sort of seems like it happens more often if you're like bi or gay.
Yeah.
So I wonder how much of that is like, here's the problems that I have had being like a promiscuous guy, and here's like the issues. I
forgot I was wearing makeup, dude.
Because it seems like very real that like almost all
they're very realistic problems. They're problems that could very well happen to someone in real life if they're like fucking a bunch of people.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that it's like relatable. Also, I want to talk about how in the beginning it's mostly like fucking and like fantasies, but it actually develops a pretty good plot later on.
Yeah, it's not like there's I would say that, like, if you're telling the story through bullet points, the plot is pretty good. There are a lot of, like, weird contrivances. Like, I talked about the thing where it's like, why would her fucking mom be walking out there?
Yeah,
and I talked about the whole thing about, like, why the fuck would she concoct this, like, weird plan?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that happened, so if you remember way back at the beginning of this episode, one of Incase's goals was to be like, okay, this isn't just porn. Like, I'm going to try to, like, actually write something here. And one of the things that, like, and this is just, like, a creative choice on his part, one of the problems that you get is, like, this insane whiplash where there'll be, like, a crazy hot sex scene, and then it'll cut to, like, really hardcore, serious shit that is, like, nuts. And, like, the whiplash you get from that is so fucking uncomfortable.
I didn't notice.
Like, the scene where,
to be honest, I just skipped, like, to all the sex scenes.
The scene at the beginning, the scene towards the beginning where Millie and Alfie hook up and her mom catches them, you get one of the spiciest scenes in the entire comic, whiplashed immediately following, like, one of the most, like, fucked up and, like, upsetting scenes in the whole comic, where her mom is being, like, violently fucking anti-gay, and you're like, this is nuts. And then later we get this, like, crazy montage where it keeps cutting back and forth between Vera's backstory and her fucking the elf, and it's like, how am I supposed to be invested in your dark backstory if that panel is right next to you, like, jacking off an elf so that he comes in his own face? Like, it's so, like, that the juxtaposition of him trying to, like, write really serious plot points next to the sex is weird. I probably would have, like,
I think it's fine, honestly.
I probably would have, like, spaced that stuff out a
No,
little better.
because I think that, okay, but you're also a guy. So, like, for any of you girls, any of you gals listening out
any
there,
of you emotionally unstable women
know that sometimes you'll be in the middle of, like, having, like, really good sex, and you'll just get, like, flashbacks to fucked up things. Like, that's, like, something that actually happens.
Yeah, but I don't think that's an average experience.
No, I think it is. I think it happens more than you think, because I think, okay, listen, it 100%, if you're just even a little bit distracted during sex, you're gonna think about fucked up shit. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, as a woman. So I think it made it more realistic to have Vera being, like, thinking about, like, this fucked up thing, because she's like, she's enjoying what she's doing, and because of that she's like, oh, like, should I even be enjoying this? Like, I'm kind of a hypocrite on this. So she's thinking about it,
right? Because
women cannot focus on just sex.
Emma, I don't know how to break this to you. This isn't like an as a woman thing. This is like an as a traumatized Gen Z kid thing.
Okay, true, but also then why are you complaining that this happened? Like, I wouldn't even bring up that scene as whiplash. I would bring it up as fucking normal everyday life of piece of shit.
Okay, so that was weird. So that's kind of like, that's what I think the high point is that a lot of the characters are just, like, sort of cowards and liars. Oh, fuck, also, huge thing that I was going to bring up later is, remember how I kept telling you guys to remember the fact that Marco and Lydia are both sort of, like, confirmed bisexual?
Yeah.
I actually think that was a little bit of a narrative cop-out. I think the dynamic between him being a straight guy and her being a lesbian woman was like a little bit more interesting. I think it was a little bit of, like, an easy move to be like, oh, well, actually, everyone is bi. I mean, I get, like, it makes things a lot more interesting, and it like opens up your, like, range of sex scenes that you can do to, like, an incredible degree. But I think it was a little, like, narratively, I think that was a little bit lame.
Yeah. Anyway, I think this comic is a godsend, and I don't know what I would do without it. And I just smeared my makeup everywhere, so, like, it's time for fucking bed. I'm gonna go read this and jerk off, probably.
Okay, hang on. We gotta come up with, like,
okay, listen. I'll be fine. I just need to get my makeup off, so hurry up. Okay. I look crazy right now. I think we definitely got to the bottom of this. I don't know what the main question was, but we did good.
Here's the deal. Here's the end of the Alfie review, okay? Art, incredible.
Yep. Plot,
storyline,
mostly incredible.
Pretty good, except for a couple of, like, weird contrivances and a couple of, like, cop-outs where, like, and there's just, like, weird shit. Like, because they gotta have excuses to make the fucking happen. So, like, it doesn't, the porn and the story does not blend as masterfully as I think Case intended it to do. But I mean, like, it works kind of.
Yeah.
And then, lastly, can you jack off to this?
Yes.
Almost for sure.
I also want to end on let's just real quick, out of this whole thing so far, your favorite girl on the count of 3. Okay?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Rug.
Let's fucking go, dude.
We got to the bottom of it.
This is a rug house. I'm always looking.
I am Rug.
Always looking for women named Rug, dude.
Brother.
Thank you for listening.
Whatever the fuck this was.
Thank you for listening to episode 17 of Inherently Optimistic, in which we review a 1,134 page Goblin porno. I don't know why. I honestly thought this episode was going to be funnier. I thought there was going to be more riffs, but it just turned into Emma being really, really, really excited over porno, which is something that I honestly probably should have predicted.
Yeah. Also, I want to point out that part of this has to do with the fact that I don't even know what time is it. It is almost midnight. We decided we weren't planning on filming this tonight.
Yeah, we fired this one
I
off.
Came up to Jacob and I was like, let's do this.
Yeah. We were supposed to have...
There was no plan.
The original plan was we were supposed to have a third person who was a straight man who had no idea what we were talking about and would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I don't know. Maybe this worked out.
This was pretty good. We actually got bottom of it, I think. I would say we did.
I'm on YouTube, ProbablyJacob. There.
Is this a Patreon
ProbablyJacob.io over on Twitter. And for as little as $2 a month, you can go over to Patreon.
Jacob, I wanted to say it.
Say it.
Is this a Patreon episode?
Yes, say it. No, it's not.
Then why do you need to say it? Okay. God, fuck. For as little as $2 a month, you too can get exclusive podcast Patreon content. Probably Jacob.
Yeah. Do you want to be tipped off ahead of time that we're doing an hour and 30-minute episode about goblin porn? Do you want to know the deep, intimate details of our tertiary friends who may or may not ever be on the podcast and the psychotic things that they do? Bonus episodes for patrons only. Also, I'm on Twitch, ProbablyJacob, live at Twitch. It's not hard to find.
Yeah.
I think that's everything.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything. This is a pretty good episode, buddy.